Hello, everyone. This is Jay Bang with Future Cardia. Um, is anybody on? Hi, Andrew. Hi, Kim. Hi, Jonathan. Hi, Curry. Fode, Michael, Gustavo. Hi, Crystal, Daniel, Carrie. Hi, Thomas. Thank you for joining. This is Jay Bang with Future Cardia. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Hi, Clark. Hi, Francis. Matthew. Umberto again. Thank you. Alfredo, Sandra. Thank you, everyone. Mike, wow, we are 40, 39. Paula, Julie, Robert, Tanner, Arturo, Brad, Robert, Jayward. Thank you again. Thank you for joining, everyone. Appreciate it. Again, this is Jay Bang with Future Cardia. Um, Super grateful for this opportunity. We just finished human testing in US, 70 patients. That's a massive data. I know 70 may not sound that big. It usually takes, oh gosh, months to get 70 patients tested, and we did it in 3 weeks over 3 different locations. So thank you for making it happen. Hey, Philip. And this is on top of the 39 patients we implanted in Europe. So these are enough data for us to present to the FDA, and our goal is to do this by end of the year, like November, December. So that's our goal. Hi, Dean. Hi, Cameron. Thank you. Um, we are moving faster than any company that I know of. To put this into perspective, there was a startup company about 20 years ago that got funded, heavily funded, of $50 million. So it's almost like $250 million in today's money. And we achieved more with far less than they have done with that kind of money. So, and this is all thanks to you guys. So just to recap, this is an implantable device. We're a fast follower on top of that, so we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just improving upon it. So we'll prep this area, numb it up a little bit, make a tiny little incision, slide the device in, and cover with a band-aid or one suture. That's it. And all the data goes to the phone to the cloud, where the physician or the clinician will have access to that. Um, this is what we call 510K or Class 2. So this is not a life-saving device. This is a monitoring device. So the regulatory process is far less than if you were to do a life-saving device. So those are Class 3 devices, complex surgeries, that kind of thing. We're not doing any of that. So luckily, we have existing insurance coverage, so we'll leverage that. And the implant procedure, the follow-up procedure is exactly the same as the predicate devices. The advantage that we have is the predicate device that allow us to follow a similar path. And unlike simpler devices where there's 500 companies competing, this is a near monopoly, oligopoly or monopoly type of industry where only 2 players are there. So yeah, it's an ultra competitive space, of course, but the barrier to entry is so high, there aren't that many companies. And we'll be the only startup company in this space competing against the big corporates. We will not win, but it's a $5 billion market. So being a third place in a $5 billion market is not a bad thing. Of course, our goal is to improve and dominate, but first thing first, we'll get our human implant done, submission, and approval, and then we'll have the opportunity to compete in that space. It's extremely fragmented market on top of that. So, of course, each hospital have a massive contract, And even if we wanted to get in, it's going to take us about a year, maybe 2 years. So we're not going to compete in that slow process. We're going to compete in the outpatient clinics where it can be done within, the contract can be done within days. And the physicians are there, patients are there, and it's an office-based procedure. So we don't need a hospital to make this happen. So we're going to focus on all these hospitals, outpatient clinics outside of the hospitals that can execute the unit sales. So we'll focus on that. The device will be ECG, the electrical part of the heart, and heart sound, the mechanical side of the heart. So we're going to combine those two and come up with multiple biomarkers for patients suffering from long-term cardiac diseases. So a lot of the investors are asking, why not wearables? Wearables are ideal for short-term. As a matter of fact, 100% of short-term monitoring should be done, is done with wearables. So you put a sticker on, good for 1 week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe even a month. So that's what patients are using. And when they fail from that, then the only option is to implant. So implantable is the gold standard for long-term monitoring. So right now there's two deep implant companies that are already approved. And one is called Cardia, got acquired for $500 million, maybe 15 years ago. And the new one that just got approved, just got acquired for $1.2 billion. So these are purely heart failure monitoring, so that you know where the benchmark is. And our goal is to deliver a similar outcome without going into a heart procedure. Instead of doing it in the cath lab, we'll do it in the office and bring the same value to the patients faster, much more affordable, and more relatable. So that's our goal. Huge thanks to all of you that we were able to test this in patients in US. I was telling a previous webinar that I worked with some really sick patients for the past 20 years, very involved traumatic surgeries, open neck, open chest, that kind of surgeries. So of course we had ups and downs, huge wins and colossal failures. And I always felt that, we were just doing all this surgery and just send them home and then hope for the best. That's why I wanted to build something that will bring value to the patients outside of the hospital. When you're sick, the best place to be is in the hospital, right? Not so much when you're at home. And with a chronic disease, you're at home most of the time and you don't know what's going on. So I wanted to bring value to those patients, and there's a lot of them. Right now, millions of patients with arrhythmia problems and about 6 million patients with heart failure problems. So we can bring value to those patients and their physicians, and ultimately us as well. Hi, Tim. One thing that struck me for the past 3 weeks is that I tested on, over 70 patients, and we were having conversation the entire time, from beginning to the end. And I never really experienced patient interaction like I did in the past 3 weeks, as I have, I thought I really understood patients and family members and physicians. So this was an eye-opening event for me, and I can truly understand the the hassle and the difficulties that the patients are going through. For some of us, just the irregular heartbeat, who cares, right? But these patients are going out of their way to find the problem, um, and fixing it. And thanks to the technologies that we have, the wearables, ablations, all these, and we play a smaller role in monitoring these patients so that we can steer them away from unnecessary hospitalizations and bring value to them. So imagine you're a patient with a chronic disease. So you're already sick. So question is, how sick are you today? Are you sick enough to go to the ER? Or are you well enough to wait it out? Hi, Cameron. I'm sorry, the quality is not that good. Let me see if I can. I think I might have been blocking the speaker. Sorry. So, from a patient's perspective, what do you do if you're already sick, especially with your heart condition? Do you wait it out?
Do you go to the ER? And so that's what the patients are stuck with. And same thing with the physicians. What do you tell the patient when you don't know what to do for that patient, other than the patient is sick? Do you tell them to wait it out without knowing, or do you tell them to go to the ER blindly? And that's what's happening. The physicians are like, I can't help this patient right now, so let's just blindly send them to the ER and figure out what to do from there. And a lot of these patients are false alarm on top of that. So that puts added pressure on patients and physicians to navigate this tough environment. So our goal is to monitor it, trending data, and as that data declines, we want to catch it and steer the patient away from hospitalization, unnecessary hospitalization, so that we can provide value for them. Here we go. Got some questions. Thank you, Louis. Appreciate it. Hi, Cameron. Hopefully the audio quality is a little bit better. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I had my hand underneath. That's why. The side effects. So all implantables, all surgeries have side effects. There's a small risk of infection, of course, small chance that device might move and come out, and that does happen. But the overall benefit to the patients far outweighs the side effects. And of course, there's a little bit of discomfort when we implant the device. Hi, Mark. Um, Other than that, that's it. And these type of devices been around for over 20 years, and pacemakers and defibrillators even longer, right? So all version pacemakers and defibrillators are like the size of a hockey puck, and they save millions of patients' lives. And of course, nowadays it's smaller, a lot more efficient. They're about this big. The pacemakers are like this big. So we'll bring the value to those patients. Um, as I mentioned, the insurance coverage is already there thanks to the predicate devices. So we're going to leverage that. Somebody asked me, what is the value of the company without insurance coverage? None. In America, without insurance coverage, nobody can buy it, nobody can sell it. So there's no value in those. So we're very fortunate to have the existing insurance coverage that we can piggyback off of. A lot of people ask me, what is the difference between our device and the competitors? The good question is, what's the difference between, let's use car as an example. What's the difference between a Lexus, BMW, and Mercedes? Same pricing point. They're exactly the same, right? They're just different car brands. They focus on the exactly same customer base, same pricing point. Um, they all do the same thing. So that's how I see it. Yeah, there isn't, in an ultra competitive environment, there is no one device that is so superior that puts everybody else out of business. No such a thing. So we have to be competitive, of course. If we are wasting patients and physicians' time, if we have an inferior product, of course, there's no business in that. But as long as we're competitive, we will make the needle move. We will not beat the big giants on the first year, obviously, but we'll make a huge dent in their operation and ours. It's only two players in a $5 billion market. So we can be a third player, and we'll be able to make that move. I've got a few more people joined. Thank you very much. We got Louis, Clint, Utamu, Alton, Arturo, Tanner. Thank you. Thank you for joining. So going back to where we are, so we're being judged on three major milestones. Our ability to implant in patients. We did that. And we did that not just 2 or 3 implants, but we did 39 implants. And we passed 1 year mark already. Very few implantable devices can say that. The next goal is to submission. So it's not a few hundred page submission. This is a few 100,000 page submission. For an implantable electronics, the submission bar is so much greater than external ECG patch or MRI machine, things like that, because it's going inside human body. So we got that. We're going to get that in November, December. And then the biggest milestone will be FDA clearance. So that takes 4 to 6 months, because we're a monitoring device, not a therapy life-saving device. So our goal is to submit by end of the year, and get approval by middle of next year. That's the major milestone for us. And of course, sales execution is important, right? There's no company will survive without selling, so we'll do that. Our solution to that is the sales team deployment is incredibly expensive, and it takes a long time. You can have a great rep, and you don't know how well he's doing until 6 months, 8 months, maybe even a year into it. So we don't have that kind of luxury. So we're going to leverage in existing pacer reps. So these are not reps that are just going to the OR, dropping off some supplies and leaving. These are reps that are in the OR doing the surgery with the physician. They are in the clinic checking the patients. They're in the ER checking the patients and those kind of things. Very much involved in the clinical and business operation of that physician. So I was one of them. So we're gonna utilize those guys to gain access to these physician groups, existing relationship, and we'll move the needle. Of course, we're not gonna take 100% of the share from everybody, but we'll take a few percentage here and there. And within one city, like Tampa Bay, for example, there's at least 20 specialists that specialize in this device, and probably another 50 or so cardiologists. So plenty of opportunity to reach out to them and bring value to them and their patients. So we'll make the needle move that way. And these are office-based procedures, so we don't need a hospital contract, which takes a year or two. So we all going to be outpatient clinic, all going to be office-based, which the contract usually takes a few weeks, if that, to move the execute the unit sales. Um, let's see. Um, the monitoring process. So we're not looking for emergency, right? We're looking for chronic patients and checking for improvement or decline. That's it. So what happens in an emergency? Somebody asked me that. And the question is, what do you do in an emergency? Do you wait for a phone call? Do you wait for some alert? Absolutely not. You make the decisions that I'm in a trouble, I'm going to call 911. And that's what most of the patients do. If there's an emergency, this is not the device. Matter of fact, no device is designed to be better than 911. So patient will have to make that decision in an emergency. But our goal is not to treat the patient during the emergency, but steer the patient away from hospitalizations so they don't have to face that emergent situation. Thank you, Louis, for your kind word. Thank you, Carrie. How far am I from market uh, estimate? Um, we're going to submit by end of the year and get approval for U.S. commercialization for middle of next year. So that's our goal. Our sticker price is $5,000, but the contract price is usually lower. So, a volume contract, if they do 30 or 50, then the price goes down. So usually the contract price for something like this is 4,000, 4,500. And it's not one implant and done. The physicians usually implant 3 to 5 in one afternoon. So we're not just making one sales. We usually make 3 to 5 sales in one afternoon. So that is a huge value for the patients and physicians as well as us. Going back to the market deployment, we won't be able to do a hire 50 sales reps to do this on the day one. So we have to hire independent pacer reps initially. It's not the most ideal situation, but that is the most efficient way to do it. So we get the first feet on the ground, sell some units, and then from there we grow into a direct sales rep. We hire a whole bunch of people and make it work. But initially, independent pacer rep is what we're gonna do. Somebody asked me, what is our goal, acquisition or IPO? Hi, Steve. Most successful startups in this space get acquired around the time of FDA submission, FDA clearance. So those are the most important part of time period. Because the sales deployment is so much expensive, it takes so long. Most startups are not capable of doing that. And most startups don't sell $4,000 product either. They're selling few $100 products. So now they need volume, whereas we do not. Somebody asked me the difference between our device and the competitors. So this is what we call the ultra competitive market space, but only two players. So it's near monopoly. So our goal is not to win a Super Bowl. Our goal is to be a part of that franchise. It happens to be only three players, and that will be a third player in that space. Of course, we have to be competitive. Of course, we have to bring value to the physician and the patients. So in that way, we are will bring value to them, and of course, we're not going to beat the predicate devices on the first year or two. Our goal is to get our foot in the door and bring value to the patients, and then it will grow. Hi, Matthew. Of course, we're not going to sit there and do nothing. We're going to continue to improve the device, and the device is designed to grow internally. So we have a lot of room in the device to swap out the chip, the latest chip, the latest sensors. So it's kind of like the Toyota Lexus approach. The platform is about the same. The platform is actually exactly the same, and they just keep building improved version of it. Whereas other companies cannot. They corner themselves into a position where they have to abandon everything they got and restart the whole thing. Let's see. Hi, Keith. Hi, Louis. How far are you? I think I answered that one. Hi, Keith. How are there any comparison studies with the similar devices? No, we tried it, but we cannot implant two similar devices in a patient. Obviously the ethics won't allow that. We tried to do that in the animal lab, but the FDA said the animal lab is not that valuable. So they want us to compare our device to the gold standard, which is the external patch. So we've completed that testing. So to show to the FDA that inside the body signal is equivalent to the gold standard, the outside of the body signal, short-term testing. So that's what we're going to submit to the FDA. When we get the clearance, absolutely we're going to do the comparison study. So that would be something like a physician, Keith Williams. So you have all these cardiac patients. 50% you implant competitive device, 50% you implant our device, and see what the outcome is. Implant time, patient comfort, ease of use, all those things will be part of it, and we'll analyze that. And we know we're gonna win on that one, because even though we're slightly bigger, the implant time is exactly the same. Whether even on the bigger device is exactly the same, and patient comfort is about the same, because patient cannot tell the difference between a tiny little device or something size of my finger inside the body. So it's that's the reason we came up with a balanced approach, balanced middleweight approach. We didn't want to spend tremendous amount of money making it a little bit smaller when it doesn't improve the performance. And obviously we can't make it too big because nobody will like it. So we had to come up with a balanced approach that sits right in the middle without compromising patient comfort and implant time. Because if the implant time is 1 second longer, physician won't use it. If there's a little bit more discomfort, patients won't like it, right? What's the point? So our goal is to provide a balanced device without compromising patient comfort and the implant time. Another thing is the older version, the device that's 20 years older, much bigger, of course, performs about the same as the new device, because the new device is very complex, small, but so finicky that the performance is not. You cannot tell a huge difference between the old and the new, and so the balanced approach that we're taking will give as good of performance as the device will allow, without compromising comfort and implant time. Oh, hi, Louis. The time to market is in three folds: ability to implant, which already achieved in last year; our ability to submit. So this is a complex implantable cardiac devices. So this is not a few hundred page submission. This is a few 100,000 page submission. So we're going to do that. We were supposed to do it this month, but because of the additional testing we're doing, we're going to do it in the November time. And then ability to get approved. So those are three major things. So our goal is to get the US commercialization approval for middle of next year. Thanks, Louis. Hi, Jasper. What is the competitive advantage of the device, and why would interventional cardiologists switch to this product? So interventional cardiologist is a really, really good candidate. So they used to implant these type of devices all the time, but eventually they stopped doing it because the device got so complicated, they needed a dedicated staff to do it. Electrophysiologists already have that staff, so they don't care how complex it gets. So they're managing it for, as a team. But interventional guys are like, wait a minute, this is not my. I didn't sign up for this 10,000 page setup. I wanted to just bring value to my patients without doing all this. So we'll definitely bring value to them. Instead of a 10,000 different settings, the physician will have maybe 10, 15 different settings that achieve 90%, 95% of all the problems they will see. And in terms of a performance, it is a little bit bigger, but it's equivalent to what's out there. So we don't have, none of us do, have a specific feature that is so great that will put other company out of business. No such a thing exists, right? Cars, using car as an example, Lexus is not going out of business because Mercedes-Benz has something so special that nobody else has. They all do the same thing, especially at the same pricing point. They have the same customer base, same similar product, nothing special, more better than the other. So that's our goal, to be equivalent and competitive. And of course, we have few other features that's going to set us apart. But in an ultra competitive space, we come up with a life altering feature. What would other guys do? Right? They're going to copy it exactly the same and be competitive. So we've seen this again and again and again. When a company comes up with a great feature or great product, the other company spend all their effort saying how bad it is, and then 6 months later they have the exact same feature to be competitive. So it's and that's the nature of ultra competitive space. We don't lower price. We keep improving the technology incrementally, and the other guy does the same thing, and then we just keep competing for the higher positioning. Thank you, Jasper. Great question. Yeah, so for interventional cardiologists, it's a great fit for us because many of them have an outpatient clinic, outpatient lab, so we can just implant the devices, 3 to 5 in one afternoon, and get to go. And same thing also for heart failure doctors. So heart failure doctors right now have all the patients, and they're like, wait a minute, I'm sending all my patients to somebody else for a device, and they come back to me, and I gotta manage this. Whereas our device, they can implant, they can manage, they can do all that for their patients without sending a patient to somebody else. Hi, Steve. How do we integrate into patient EHR? That is a tough one. Most implantable device companies don't do it because each hospitals have their own policy. They all have different firewalls, and they all have a different way of incorporating the data. So going into that EHR as a third party or even a fourth party vendor to simulate into that system is not an easy thing. So most implantable companies do not do it. So we have a HIPAA compliant data storage in the cloud. So the nurse or the clinician will log into it with a password. So funny thing is, if you see these nurses' desk, they would have 10 to 20 yellow stickies with all different portals, different login and password. So that's how they have to do it. But yeah, if we can, we're going to avoid integrating into the EHR because it's just so complicated, time consuming, and it's not all that effective. Thank you, Jason, for your kind words. If you guys haven't seen it, this is what the device looks like. This is an actual device. We prep this area, numb it up, make a tiny incision, put it under the skin, and cover with a band-aid or maybe a one stitch. Hi, Steve. What is a Fed rep? I don't know what that is. If I think about it, that is, we have to rely on government, which is usually very time consuming. And, I say free is never free, right? If the money comes with free, if the service comes with free, you're going to pay it with your time. We tried to do the grant work, and I wasn't good at it. So we tried it. Huge waste of time. So we're not going to do it. We're small business designation, so that will save us on the tax credit. But in terms of the operation, we are 100% startup. We move incredibly fast, efficiently, and hopefully don't break too many things on the way. And we're doing that, because of the vigilance that we're taking, and of course, we want to have that grandmother pass. Would you be able to proudly implant this in your family member? And my answer is yes, absolutely. Um, Another benefit that we have is we're not creating a new thing. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're actually following the existing path and improving upon it. So the implant procedure is common procedure. The follow-up is already established. Reimbursement is already established. So we're going to follow the same path. And of course, we're going to be improving it after we achieved a milestone, and it'll be an incremental improvement. So things like oxygen sensor. Imagine an oxygen sensor inside the body. We get those oxygen sensor on your fingertip or on your watch. That works great when you're not moving. It doesn't work at all when you're moving around. So imagine this being inside the body, giving you accurate data throughout the day. So that's going to be a huge value for the patients and physicians. The impedance measurement is another thing. As the fluid accumulates in the lungs, your tissues will also accumulate fluid. So it's going to measure the impedance between 2 points. So that's going to be tremendously valuable for heart failure. So right now we have ECG, the electrical parts of the heart, and the heart sound, the mechanical aspects of the heart. So by combining those two biomarkers, we're getting 9 different biomarkers just from those two. So imagine if when we incorporate oxygen saturation and impedance measurements, so 4 other modalities, that's going to turbocharge our ability to manage and monitor these patients that are constantly struggling. So if I have not mentioned this earlier, imagine you're a heart failure patient. You're already sick, so you don't feel good today. So what do you do? Do you go to the ER? Do you call the doctor? Or do you wait it out? So that's where the patients and physicians are kind of stuck. There's no good answer for them. If they go to the ER, they just bought themselves a hospital admission, even if it's a false alarm. If they don't go to the ER, they might be in even bigger trouble because this could be an emergency and they just keep waiting it out. So it's a very tough situation for the patients and physicians. So our goal is to monitor trending changes over a long period of time and steer the patient away from hospitalization before anything happens. Right? So that's our goal. And these are microscopic changes that you don't feel and you don't see. And yet it's one of those things like good analogy that we use in heart failure is driving toward the cliff. You're perfectly fine until you get off the cliff, right? The car's running, you're doing everything's perfectly fine until you get off the cliff. And that's what's happening. And we call it a slow and sudden. So this is slowly develops and it reaches a certain point and now you're in big trouble and you just all of a sudden, difficulty breathing and you're just foaming in your mouth, that kind of situation. So our goal is to monitor it and steer the patient away from that unnecessary hospitalization. And this is all possible because of all your help. Early on, I had so my work was in the class 3 implantable devices for the past 20 years, all traumatic surgeries, life-saving devices. And we do, of course, we had huge ups and huge downs. And then we just basically send the patient home. And that's it. And hope for the best. And I was thinking, these are really sick patients. They really are taken care of in the hospital, right? They got doctors and nurses, everybody's here, but they are the most vulnerable situation at home. And there's nothing other than a telephone call to a secretary who tells them to go to the ER or make an appointment. So I wanted to come up with a solution for them that can monitor and bring value to them. Hi, Jesper. As a new device marketing, as a new device marketing is paramount, reps already have relationship with cardiologists. What is the best strategy to incentivize reps? Oh, commission, huge commission, right? And and we know these high profile reps are pushed out from these big companies. We know that because we have over 50 resumes from these guys saying, I don't want to work for these guys anymore because they're doing is cutting my commission and increasing my workload. And I get it. I get it. If you were the VP of that division, you would do the same thing. You would increase the sales reps, right? And you have X amount of money, so you got to split that between 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, and try to grow the market, grow the business. So that's what the VPs are doing. From a sales rep perspective, I just did all this work, and now the new guy comes in, and I'm sharing my profit with him 50-50, or even 40-60. I don't like that. And and also from a big corporate perspective, 70% of your time is spent on satisfying your internal customers, your own company, right? So all these meetings you have to go to, you have to fight for your territory, you have to fight for your commission, and it's a 70% of your time when that can be used productively. And these reps are been in the industry for 10, 20 years, and they're all being pushed out. So we have that pool of talent that we can leverage to access the physicians and their service. So we're definitely going to leverage existing clinical and business relationship with these physicians. Can you compete with their commission? Absolutely. That's the only thing that's going for us, Jasper. These big corporations are giving, 2%, 3%, maybe 3% commission. We're not doing that. We're going to go far, far higher. Absolutely. And that's where our efficiency comes in. We're not going to hire a whole bunch of direct sales reps, wait 6 months to a year and see what happens. We're going to do independent pacer reps with the existing relationships and execute unit sales. Of course, we're not going to win every account all the time. We're not even going to get, 50% of the account. We're going to get at best 10% of that account, but we're going to have 10 of those, right? We don't need to be at UCSF. We don't have to be at Stanford or Harvard. We can be at all these great hospitals, outpatient centers outside of those big hospital chain, and we can execute that. And not just the cardiologists that specialize in this. We can also summon interventional cardiologists that are doing stents, that are very capable of monitoring this, and heart failure physicians who used to be a traditionally medication physician, but now they're all implanting as well. So we're not just penetrating one market, one physician group. We're growing the pie. We've got 3 different physician groups that is able to and willing to implant this and monitor their patients. Great question, Jasper. Yeah, nothing beats good commission. And again, our goal is to be competitive and bring value to patients and physicians. There is no such device that is so superior that puts everybody out of business. There's no such a thing. We'll have a feature that would be better than what others have, but as soon as we do that, they're going to come up with something similar within 6 months to a year. Thank you. I know a whole bunch of people joined afterwards, but this is the actual device. So we numb it up, make an incision, slide it under the skin, and usually cover with a special band-aid called Steri-Strips or one suture. And all that data goes to the phone to the cloud, and into the and then a physician will have access to that. So one of the investor asked me, "How about the cloud? Is that a HIPAA compliant?" Absolutely. It has to be. Otherwise, there's no business. So we are using an existing HIPAA compliant cloud solution, and we're just piggybacking off that. So all the data goes to that cloud securely and is storage there. And then the physician will access that data uh, just for his patients. So let's see. And this is all made in US. So we have a contract manufacturer in Minneapolis. So that's where all the pacemakers and defibrillators are made. So all the technology, all the engineers are there. So all our team at one point was living in Minneapolis, and now that we can develop this outside of Minneapolis, so we're doing that. We have VP of manufacturing that used to be there. Now he's elsewhere. Quality is also was there. Um, all of us except me, actually. I'm based in Florida, but I work for Medtronic. So everybody is was based in Minneapolis, and now we're elsewhere. Hi, Jasper. Is there any thoughts of having investment partners of big groups like Cardiovascular Association of America? I didn't know. Oh, that must be a private equity company. Yeah, there's quite a bit of conversation going on right now. So hospitals are buying up cardiology groups. Got it. But so is the private equities are buying up cardiologist groups. So if you can get one contract through a private equity that owns 50 cardiologist group, we're in. And they will have maybe two or three options, and the physician will make the decision to say, well, I'm going to use Medtronic or Boston or Future Cardia. So we'll definitely have that operation. That contract is not easy, right? So before we do that, we also have to focus on the individual sales at a smaller accounts. So we're going to work on that. And for us to get a contract like that, it usually requires a national account manager that has done this before. And we don't have the bandwidth to make that happen at this minute. Uh, the FDA, no, the investors are looking at us on our ability to implant, which we did, ability to submit. This is not a couple hundred pages. This is a couple 100,000 pages of documents. And we're very close to doing that. And then, of course, the approval. So those are three things that were uh, uh, make us an attractive acquisitions target. Implantable devices inherently are very expensive to deploy. So usually it's acquisitions company comes in and they say, you achieved everything you need to do. You have de-risked our process. And at that point, they'll make an acquisition. And of course, acquisitions number in our space is unlike any other. And if you Google any of the implantable devices, you will see the numbers that are completely in a different hemisphere. Thank you. And yes, we are talking to potential acquisitions companies. Two other companies have a similar device, so they're not interested. We're still talking, but they're not interested. But there are plenty of companies that are interested in the cardiac. They're already in cardiac space, and they are interested in cardiac monitoring business, a long-term monitoring business. So we're looking at those. They're looking at us, and we're having a very productive conversation. It is like dating, of course. It's, some months are very hot, and all of a sudden it gets really cold, and I think they're like, oh, they're not interested, and then all of a sudden I get an email saying, let's talk some more. So we're having that conversation right now. It's up and down, but my goal is not so much to worry about those. I mean, that's high priority, but that's something I cannot control. But what I can control is increase value, um, implant, submission, approval, get everything we can to make that happen, and then um, and de-risk for potential acquirers. So that's the only thing we can control. So we'll make that work. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. Uh, the COVID problem, supply chain problem, absolutely we have it, but we're not the only one, right? Every single companies ever in every company on the planet is going through the same problem. So we'll navigate toward it. We have unique advantage that we don't need millions of parts. We're still small startup operation. So even if we have to pay a premium for a chip or titanium, we can. because we don't need millions of it. So that's helping us a little bit. And then the recent changes in the FDA, the staffing changes and all that stuff, of course, is a tough things to navigate. But again, it's not unique to us. Every single medical device company in America has to navigate toward around that. So we're going to do that as well. If they have a short staff, it's not unique to us. So we got to make it work. If they're delayed, we got to fight through it, right? And so in that way, we are making the best of what we have. And the worst thing we can do is not do anything about it and sit on the fact. And a lot of startups will do this. Well, we achieved one major milestone. I'm going to sit on this and try to sell this idea to somebody. No, that's just hope and wishing and dreaming. So my goal is, yes, we achieved it, but we need to keep going and keep increasing the value and decrease the risk. So that's our goal. Thank you, guys. Any other questions for me? We got a lot of good questions. We got 15 investors here. Hugely valuable. I'm super thankful for your participation. And we did, the equity crowdfunding on StartEngine has been going tremendously. So we got 4 days left. So any investment would be, appreciated. And I know this is your blood, sweat, and tears, and you're trusting me with your investment. So thank you. It means a lot. I'm very careful with your money. And of course, we made some mistakes here and there, but overall, we're really moving faster than anything out there. So there was a company called Transoma about 20 years ago. Same device. Of course, it was older technology, so it was bigger. They were using Palm Trio, but the idea was exactly the same. They had $50 million funding 20 years ago. Imagine 50 million, which is about 250 million today. We achieved more with our device than they have done at a fraction of the cost and fraction of the time. So, and this is possible because of all your help, all your support. And we have an army of investors. We have almost 10,000 investors that's supporting us. So we definitely are grateful for all your support. Yeah, so if you have an opportunity, check us out on StartEngine, and I would appreciate your consideration. And hopefully we can earn your investment. Thank you. Hi, Julius. So let's see, we've got 16 people here. Bernard, thank you. Louis, Elton, Carrie, Kim, Fidel, Jasper, Spencer, Cameron, thank you again. Daniel, Michael, Sandra, Julius. Lots of familiar names. So thank you for your support, guys. Jasper has some great questions. Anything else, guys? Don't be shy. I'm here so I can answer any questions. What else can I say? Also, we did an interview with Kevin O'Leary that was very, very insightful. I thought he was just a investor slash TV personality, and he knew quite a bit. So I'm like, this makes no sense. So I actually Googled him, and he's a keynote speaker for a medical device lobbying group. He gives a speech to a bunch of medtech CEOs all the time. So that's why he knew a lot about my space. So that was very helpful. Hi, Sandra. What do I plan to do with the funds raised? So we're being very efficient and very careful with what we're doing. It's 100% of our money, your money, is going toward research and development and for the FDA submission. Of course, we're paying salaries and things like that. So our goal, the immediate goal, is in 3. Human implant, which we achieved, and not just 1 or 2, we did 39. So that's huge milestone for us. And now FDA submission by end of the year, I'm sorry, and then FDA clearance by middle of next year. So this will allow us to get to the next level. So this extra testing we did was an unplanned expense, and it was a big one. So all the money that we raised, we were able to utilize it surplus that we had, we utilized it on this testing. And this was do or die type of data. And we have good data from 70 patients. So all this will be used in the supplement to the FDA submission. Um, a lot of the startups do not a lot, I guess all of them do venture funding. So they'll get a lump sum of money, and then they will use that money over, 1 to 18 month period, and then they achieve milestones and they get more funding and so forth if they get it. Unlike them, we are going straight to the directly to the angel investors like yourselves. So our budget is 3 to 6 months at a time. That's our runway. So we're constantly raising money and constantly increasing value, whereas traditional startups have big chunk of money and then they will meet that goal end of the year or end of 18 months. So we're constantly have a milestones that we achieve weekly, monthly, every 2 3 months, and then keep increasing the value and raising money. Thanks, Andra. Hi, Jasper. How's the product of large quantities of product going to be obtained? Production um, is still handmade. So there's of course, the machining and all that is machine done, but entire assemblies are handmade. So there's a limitations on what we can build per month right now. We're going to automate some of the processes, but we don't want to automate it right now because we're not in need of that. So my goal is to build 50 to 100 a month, all handmade. And then when we achieve a certain milestones, then we'll automate some of the processes. But by automating it, we need to invest in the machinery, and then that costs money. But the efficiency goes up tremendously, and the failure rate goes down tremendously. So that will happen. But for now, all, not just us, but all startup companies at this stage is handmade. Thank you, Jasper. Hi, Sandra. Can you briefly describe the office procedure to implant this device? Yes, it is exactly like all other cardiac loop recorders, all of them. Uh, we patients fully awake. We prep the area, numb it up, make a tiny incision, slide the device in, one suture or one band-aid. That's it. And even the suture is an absorbable suture, so patient doesn't need to come back to get one stitch removed. That's just waste of time for the patient and the physician. So the ones that we've done in Europe, we had an option to put a tape over it, but because it's a first implant, I wanted to make sure that we have it secured. So I asked all the physicians to put a one suture in just to be on the safe side. But a lot of physicians don't put any sutures in. They just put a little steri strips, or they might even glue it. So it's a very common procedure. And that's the key. We're doing this on an outpatient basis, not in the hospital. So interventional cardiologists with their offices or outpatient lab, we can do it right there. And we do usually 3 to 5 patients in one afternoon. So we'll do it that way. We'll be lucky to do it every day, but realistically, it's gonna be tough. But we're gonna do the reps will be hitting the pavement, knocking on doors, and they will designate one afternoon for us, and we'll implant a whole bunch. And then another physician, hopefully, same week or next week, schedule a whole bunch for us on a weekend, and we'll do it that way. And keep in mind, this is not a couple $100 product. This is a $4,000-$5,000 product. So not bad implanting 5 in one afternoon. Thank you, Sandra. And Kevin O'Leary said something that is very true. He said this is a oligopoly near monopoly, and it is. The way I see it is, I use car as an example. Luxury car brand. There's few of them there. They're all competitive, and that's what we're trying to do. So same thing with the sports. Um, you know, our goal is not to win a Super Bowl tomorrow. Our goal is to be a part of that franchise, and even the losing team in that franchise is doing really well, as long as you bring value to the people. And our goal is to be competitive and bring value to the patients and physicians, and ultimately they will bring value to me, us, and the investors. Hi, Michael. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I really appreciate it. I know Michael just joined in. We have, I think Mohammed just joined in. So thank you, guys. Oreste, thank you for joining. Bernard, thank you. So I know a lot of you heard me saying this already, but in case you just joined, so this is the actual device that we implant in patients, and then we'll numb it up, this area, make a tiny little incision, implant it under the skin, cover with a band-aid or one absorbable suture. So patient doesn't even need to come back. We have tons of videos, but I can't share that with you, obviously, for the HIPAA reason. And all the data goes to the phone to the cloud, where the physician will monitor that. And we're a fast follower. This is not a brand new device and brand new approach. We're following the existing path and improving upon it. That allows us to move faster um, and more efficiently. Hi, Sandra. What's the competitive edge? We don't. We don't have a competitive edge. Think about it. We have to be competitive, right? If we are inferior in any aspect, if it takes longer to implant, if it's a little bit more uncomfortable, if it's a little bit cumbersome, we're done. There's no such thing as a second chance. So we have to be competitive. But in terms of competitive edge, it's like asking what's the difference between a Lexus, BMW, and Mercedes at the same pricing point, right? They're exactly the same car, same pricing, same customers, and same everything. So our goal is to leverage existing physician and existing clinical and business relationships and bring value to the patients and physicians. That is what we're doing. Um, there's no such a thing. It's a super ultra competitive environment, right? So there's no one product that is so good that bankrupts everybody else. No such a thing exists. No such a thing exists in any ultra competitive space. So when we come up with a superior product, the other companies will say how bad it is for 6 months, and then they have brand new feature similar to what we have. And when they do that, we're gonna come up with something else, and they'll do that. And when they come up with something better than ours, we're gonna improve ours to come up with that to compete against that. So that's how the ultra competitive environment works in my space. So there's not a one company that says I'm so much better that all of you guys are going out of business. So that doesn't exist. As long as we stay competitive, of course. If you start building inferior product, you're done. You're done even before you go out. So thank you. Great question, Sandra. Um, there's a features that we're implementing, not right now, but there's two features that's really going to make us stand out. That is the oxygen sensor and the impedance measurement. Having said that, like in any competitive environment, the other guys will copy that within 6 months, and that's just the way it is. So thank you, great question. We still have 15 investors here. The StartEngine offering will end in 4 days on the 19th. So please check us out. We broke a lot of records. Huge thanks to many of you that invested in us. We have tons of follow-on investment from existing investors. We also have 3 investors, super angels, that had $1 billion exit in our cap table. So that is and they came on because of you guys. They saw the traction that we have thanks to our investor base, and they were impressed, and they were able to follow you guys to make it happen. So thank you. Hi, Orestes. What's the current cost of building a device, and what do you expect the cost to once scale up? Yeah. So magic number in our industry is 60% margin, which is a lot, right? So if you're an airline industry, your margin is like 0.1%, something like that. So hi, Donald. 60% margin is a big deal for us. So right now, hand built, literally hand built. Our cost is 1,100, I think, somewhere around there. We're selling it for 5,000, 4,000. So the margin is there. When we automate some of the long pull in our process, our goal is to get it down to maybe 700. So the margin will be a lot better when we do that. But for now, we have to hand make. We don't have the we cannot invest in a machinery to automate some of the process when we're only making 50 to 100 a month. So that's our goal: to build it, sell it, and then slowly ramp up and automate some of the processes. Great question. Thank you. Uh, yeah, in year or two, hopefully get it down to 700. And this is far cheaper than the competitors. Competitors' cost of goods is in the 2,000 to 3,000 range, and they're generating $1 billion a year just doing that. And they don't care if they lose money because their goal is not so much to monitor them patients. Their goal is to find out what's wrong with them so they can get them to different level of devices, pacemakers, defibrillators, and ablations. Our goal is not that. Our goal is purely monitoring and the data, so we can bring value to the investors and value to the patients and physicians that way. Hey, Louis, thank you for joining. Donald, thank you. Any other questions for me? We got a whole bunch of Justin. Julius, you've been here for a while. Thank you. Yeah, so check us out on StartEngine. Our offering ends in 4 days. Huge thanks to all of you guys. We have over 1,000 investors already, and with combining with our previous campaign, we have almost 10,000 investors. So we're building an army, and I know this is your blood, sweat, and tears. So I take your investment seriously and with a tremendous pride and duty. Hi, Donald. Oh, thank you so much for your kind words. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for considering. I hope to earn your investment. Thank you. And I don't know if you joined a little late, but this is the device. So we implant it just under the skin, make an incision, numb it up, incision, slide it in. So obviously this is bigger than the those birth control pills insertions that you do under your arm, but it's the same procedure. Tiny little numbing medication, tiny little incision, slide it in. And the beauty of this approach is it's a balanced approach. It's bigger than the predicate, but the implant time is exactly the same, and then the patient comfort is the same. So there's no compromise in terms of delivery and comfort. Because we made it slightly bigger, it's a balanced approach, kind of like a smartphone. Everybody wanted to go small, and then they started going big, right? And so that's what we're doing. I call it a Land Cruiser approach instead of a sports car approach. Um, it will just run, it will just work, and it will bring value to those that are using it. It doesn't have just some crazy features that nobody wants. So that's what the other guys have. Tons of features that people just don't use, right? So our device will bring value to the users and patients as well. Hi Don, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. Any questions for me? Oh, here we go. There's a question from Donald. Does the implanting procedure change a bit? No, we're going to stay exactly the same as the predicate device. So we're a fast follower to the existing devices. So this is what we all do. We'll prep it, numb it, and then make a tiny little incision, slide the device in, and cover it up with a one suture or a steri-strip. Maybe sometimes even a glue. I haven't used glue in a while, but most of the time it's either a little suture or a steri-strip. And the implant procedure is exactly the same. The follow-up is exactly the same. So we don't have to train nurses on how to do this. So this type of follow-up has been around for almost 20 years. Before it used to be a big console, and now it's a computer, of course. But that is the advantage of being a fast follower. We're not inventing the wheel. We're just following the existing wheel and improving the efficiency. And another good thing about being a fast follower is the insurance coverage. So it's already there. And of course, the downside is that there's two giants in this space making billions of dollars. So we won't be able to penetrate big contracts and things like that. So we have to focus on much more faster and more efficient operation, which is the outside the hospital outpatient clinics, and they've got tons of cardiologists that own these facilities, and we'll leverage that. So thank you. It seems like some people are getting kicked out and coming back in, but I think we still have like 9 investors on it. So thank you very much. Again, we're closing in 4 days, so feel free to join us. Consider your investment, and I'll welcome that opportunity to earn on your investment. Thank you. I think I touched on quite a bit. What else? What else can I say? One of the things that I wanted to do this is I was part of a very complex surgery for almost 15 years in 2 startup companies, life-saving devices. And, of course, we had huge ups and huge downs, because these are so sick and the surgery is so complex. And when they do well, we just send them home. And then, good luck. And that always bothered me. Patients needed help in the hospital, and they have the help in the hospital, but what do they do when they're not in the hospital? That's when they're the most vulnerable, right? So I wanted to come up with a solution for them for long-term monitoring. So that's where this whole thing started. And the wearables are ideal for short term, and that is the first line of defense. If patient comes in and says, I want this, you can't have this right away. You got to put the patch on. Just like you need to get an x-ray first before you can get a CT scan or MRI, right? So the patch is the best solution for short term. And if you don't find the solution, then the implant is the next choice, the next gold standard. Right now, the deep implants are very popular, and not popular. They are the gold standard, but it requires cath lab procedure, and they're very expensive, very complex. And even though they've been around for about 15 years, they haven't been all that popular. So that's the problem. So the wearables are super convenient, but for short term. Deep implants are accurate, but complex, expensive, and not for everyone. So there's this huge middle ground, and under the skin is what we're doing. And so is Medtronic and Boston Scientific. They're doing the same under the skin approach. So our goal is to follow that path and improve upon it. Well, thank you, everyone. I've been talking for about an hour and 10 minutes, so I really, really appreciate all your kind support. Hi, Kim, and your investments. So I would not be here without your support. And I had an opportunity to raise $5 million from a venture fund, and I turned it down and went with the angel investors because I knew I could raise that money on my own, and I never thought equity crowdfunding would be a solution, and now it is. It's changing the way we run the company as a startup, and my goal is to continue to increase value, decrease risk, and become an attractive acquisitions target and bring value to you guys ultimately. So thank you very much. Hey, if there's no, hi Kendrick, you joined in a little late, but that's okay. Here's the device. So we're implanting this under the skin. It would make a little, numb it up a little bit, insert it under the skin, cover with a Band-Aid. And then that's it. It's an office-based procedure. All the data goes to the phone and then to the cloud. So I've been on this for an hour and 10 minutes, so I think I'm going to call it a day. Again, thank you for your support. This means a lot to me. I know this is your blood, sweat, and tears. So I'll definitely watch out for your money and bring value to you. I think we just had one person join. Somebody else just joined. Oh, well, maybe we lost. But thank you again. Check us out on StartEngine. Bye-bye.